Hi everybody. I'm a bit sick, so try not to take too much heed to my voice. Um, Currently what we have here for properly feeding your mealworms is, first off, give them the dry food first, because once you add the wet food, such as apples or carrots, they tend to flock to that more. And then it kind of gets icky by obviously having all the wet stuff in with the dry stuff for longer periods. So it's better to have the dry stuff pretty much having the mealworms cover the top of it first, so that once all this part is like gone, because I actually put this in about 10 minutes ago, and I just have some dried blueberries, which are good for both geckos and hamsters. Make sure that the blueberries don't have a bunch of added sugar or other things like that. You want to try to get the most basic dried blueberries. You could even add just fresh blueberries. I didn't have fresh blueberries today, but the mealworms will still eat, obviously, the dried blueberries. And then we have oatmeal that was lightly blended, because it's a lot easier for the mealworms to actually eat it versus the whole stuff, which could take longer for them to digest and to eat it. And then you wait about an hour or so, like I was saying in the beginning, till the mealworms are kind of basically on top of the oatmeal or dried fruit that you have in there. Like I said, blueberries are safe. I'm not sure about other dried fruits. You'd have to make sure that there was no citric acid if you're, or acidy like items, because even though there's probably no problem for geckos, for hamsters on the other hand, they need to have a very low to no acid ratio, so such as blueberries are good. I'm not sure how cranberries would do. They might end up causing upset tummies, though with such a tiny ratio it probably wouldn't hurt them too bad, but you really wouldn't want to risk that. So like I said, if you're going to do dry fruit, obviously check the labels on which you're using. Make sure they don't add citric acid especially to it. That can really give your hamster a very upset tummy. And I think you could probably do apples and bananas, though keep in mind for dried fruit they do tend to add extra sugar and acid to it, so you have to check the bags and stuff. And like I was saying before, once everything is all pretty much covered on the top, that's when you can add your fresh apples or your fresh blueberries or your fresh carrots. Even bananas are good as fresh fruit and such. Geckos actually do enjoy that when mealworms are gut loaded with things like that too. And it also gives them good nutrition. But like I said, you want to wait until most of this is all covered. Otherwise, they tend to flock to the fresh ingredients first, which then leaves the oatmeal as one of the last pick things that they eat, and they kind of need to eat that first. Make sure that prior to actually feeding your mealworms to either hamsters or geckos, at least wait 24 hours, if not 2 days, just to ensure that everything is as stuffed as they could possibly be. And then for geckos, obviously, what I do is I take out the mealworms that I want, and I dust them with gecko calcium, and I give it to them that way. I don't put gecko calcium on any of the mealworms in general, due to the fact that I do feed some of these to my hamsters. And I'm not exactly sure what gecko calcium would do to hamsters. So on the safety side, I always put the gecko calcium directly on the worms in the gecko food dishes instead of actually all together. Now obviously, if you're just using these for geckos, obviously put the gecko calcium or whatever you're using for a supplement for geckos or lizards or whatever in general in with them, and they'll also eat it as well. And that's pretty much it. Dry ingredients first, wet ingredients second. Blueberries, apples, bananas, carrots are pretty darn decent for both hamsters and geckos when you're putting them in as wet ingredients for your mealworms. Though your mealworms will indeed go for the more sweeter items first, so be prepared for that. And make sure you do it at least 24 hours to 2 days before actually feeding them to either hamsters or geckos. Geckos, if you're the only ones, feeding them with the mealworms, automatically put the gecko calcium, just sprinkle it all over, and they'll just eat it. Otherwise, dusting it when you putting it in their food dish is just as effective. So, with that being said, toodles everybody.